Welcome to the Endless Loop, where the technology journey is endless, loop never breaks, innovation never stops. I'm back, finally. After taking a long hiatus, had to move across the country. Lots of intense work involved in that. I'm sure you guys understand. So now I'm finally back. We're going to go ahead and continue this thing. And this video actually is going to be a follow-up to my previous video, which is about installing Kubernetes on a four-node Ubuntu 22.04 cluster. All right, so this video is actually going to be about automating that process using the Ansible technology. So some of you guys may be familiar with that. You also have Terraform. I know a lot of you all may have heard about Terraform, and at some point we're actually going to explore that as well, kind of look at the differences between both. But again, this video is about the Ansible technology and using that to actually to automate that process. There are lots of manual steps in the previous video. I would encourage you guys actually to go and look at the previous video to get familiar with some of the steps, as this video is actually kind of going to summarize those steps into plays, and we'll get into exactly what plays are within the Ansible technology. So let's go ahead and get into that right now. So what is Ansible? It's an open source automation tool designed for configuration management, application deployment, task automation. It's agentless architecture, meaning that there's no daemons that actually have to run on targeted machines. So no installation, no daemon installation processes, and it communicates with these machines via just regular SSH to shell into the machines. And it requires no additional software on managed nodes, as just mentioned. And it uses primarily YAML-based playbooks in order to establish a declarative approach to stateful architecture management. And so it makes automation accessible to both developers and system administrators. Again, you can deploy security tools, any kind of provisioning tool for servers. And a lot of people are familiar with Terraform. Terraform is primarily used for infrastructure provisioning. So the difference between both is that you can look at Terraform as building infrastructure, and then Ansible configures what runs on it. Even though actually Ansible can also be used for infrastructure building as well as provisioning as well. All right. So key features of Ansible, again, agentless. So no software installation needed. You just need a user, and that user communicates with targeted nodes over SSH. Simple automation, human readable YAML, making it easy to write, share, understand automation scripts. No special coding skills required, even though that actually helps, of course. So if you have coding skills, that just you're just able to do more with the Ansible platform as well. Idempotent operations, so tasks produce the same result regardless of how many times they're run. So kind of like an iterative approach of making sure that the task that successfully ran does not make any additional changes should you choose to run the same playbooks. Extensibility in ecosystem. So basically, you can use Ansible primarily in any type of environment, cloud, on-prem environments. So very wide ecosystem approach. The Ansible community is a very well established community, and so there's a lot of community playbooks actually that you can actually download that more than likely already does what you want to configure your playbook to do, and so lots of again third party Ansible playbooks that you can actually use practically for any situation. And so how ultimately it works is that you're going to have a control node, kind of a command and control center, and on that node you're going to have your playbooks. And the control node runs the playbooks on the targeted managed nodes. So They define the desired state, execute the task in sequence, the sequence in which you write the plays. Remote communication, again, it uses SSH on Linux and Unix systems. WinRM for Windows, for all you Windows folks. And modular architecture, so inventory files define targeted hosts and groups, and we'll see that in just a moment. Use case and benefits, again, application deployment. It's just really great for that. Automate the full deployment pipeline to eliminate manual steps. And I don't know about you guys, if you followed the last video where I installed Kubernetes, it was a very manual process, lots of different steps involved. I kind of got tired of doing it. So, I was actually ready to kind of automate this thing. So, and so again, server provisioning, rapidly set up and configure infrastructure environments on demand. Spinning up cloud instances on bare metal servers. Lots you could really do with the configuration management as well. All right, and we kind of already gone over use case and benefits again. Reduces manual error, saves time, improves scalability across infrastructure. All right, and so how do you get started with it? Well, you start by installing Ansible on your control machine. All right, and we'll see that in just a second. You can use Python's pip, or you can use your systems package manager. And we're again on this channel, we're a Linux environment on this channel. So there's various distributions that have different package managers. But regardless of the distribution, Ansible can run on it. And you can install it via your package manager. If your package manager doesn't have the latest version, you can always get it from pip as a Python module. All right, and so you can explore the Ansible documentation, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. All right, and so when we take a look at the actual project, there's a pre-made project that I already have ready to go for demonstration purposes for installing the Kubernetes cluster or automating the installation of that process. And so we're just going to use it'll be a simple project structure, and this is somewhat going to be the layout here, where you have your main folder, and inside of that you have some key files that we're going to explain in more detail in just a moment. But some of the key files they're going to be, for example, the inventory.ini file. So it uses a .ini configuration format in order to define an inventory, where you basically place your hosts, and then you can actually combine those hosts into groups and then reference the actual group name. Then you have your Ansible.cfg file. That's your Ansible configuration file. There's several places in which the actual Ansible setup looks for this Ansible configuration file. Starting with the actual folder that you have your project in. So that's always going to take precedence. We'll take a look at those project configuration settings in just a moment. Then you have your Playbooks folder, where you have your YAML automation task files. All right, so these are going to be your main playbook. These are going to be your main playbooks, and in each one, in each playbook file, you have plays. Then, as I mentioned earlier, there's lots of third-party playbooks out there on the market where more than likely, if you're trying to do whatever it is you're trying to do, there's something out there that you can actually take and maybe perform minimal customizations to kind of tailor fit what you needed to do for your environment, and you can pull that down as a role. So roles are reusable modular components. All right, or you can create your own role, and then you have the option, if you want to, then take that role and then put it out there on the market for other developers and engineers to actually use. You have the option of doing that as well. All right, so this is the basic structure, and we're going to take a look at what I have in place for automating the installation process of a Kubernetes cluster. So that's what we're going to look at next. Now, as mentioned before, so it's going to be a 4-node Ubuntu cluster. All right, so running Ubuntu 22.04 LTS server, and yeah, so that's what this configuration. That's going to be the operating system for this particular configuration. All right, and so I already have the nodes already installed with the operating system on them. All right, so there's going to be each one of these. All right, so these are the console, VirtualBox console, of course, and all right, so this is going to be the actual command and control center. All right, and so this is where we actually want to have Ansible installed. All right, and so, well, how do you install Ansible on your control node? A number of different options. Again, if you're using a Debian based distribution, you can use the package manager. I wouldn't recommend it. If it's a Debian based distribution, I would recommend actually installing it via Python's pip. All right, something like that. Or actually, if you have access to, or if you're able to add the Ansible PPA, so you can do that as well. And so you can actually run. So you would start with actually installing this particular package. That's going to be software properties common. All right, I'm not going to install it. I'm just showing you the commands. I already have Ansible installed. All right, and then after that, you just add the app repository. So add app repository. All right, and you can actually, of course, Google this. AI will bring up these it'll bring up these options to go ahead and install. See here. So yes, you can do that. All right, and then after you do that, then sudo app install Ansible. All right, so that's the way to actually install it via PPA. So add the PPA to your local package management system, and then just install it from there. All right, and so again, you can actually get this information right here on the docs. See, installing Ansible. Yeah, so this is it here. This is docs.ansible.com, and this is just basically walk you through the process. All right, and so on our control node, again, we already have it installed, so I'm running Ansible. This is the Ansible version that I'm running right now. All right, and so once you have that installed, all right, as I mentioned, it's all about the folder structure. All right, so let's see here. All right, and this is going to be our folder structure. I already have some things in here already. So I mentioned it's a basic folder structure to keep the lesson simple. So of course the objective is going to be just to talk about a few main components of Ansible, some key components, and then show exactly how this can be used to install a Kubernetes cluster again. So this is going to be the Ansible configuration file. All right, so what does this file look like? All right, so the Ansible configuration file is going to have things that the Ansible service needs, in order to, provision whatever cluster or whatever node that you like to provision. So, it's going to need certain things like the inventory path. If you want to have a log, the log path, what remote user are you going to use in order to SSH into each node. All right, and so this is going to be our remote user. This is our roles path. We talked about roles. I mentioned that roles are used to kind of reuse Ansible modules. Ansible modules, reuse them throughout. Maybe your playbook, or you may even want to publish it. Yeah, and so just reusable modules. All right, and so these are other configurations. All right, so how do you get this configuration file? What do you start? All right, so you can actually run a command to actually install the configuration file. All right, and so this is going to be the command that you can actually run. Config knit. All right, and actually I'm not going to run it in here, but I'll just kind of show you in a different. Let's call this Ansible sample. Let's see what this. Config, make it regular. All right, it's just random config. All right, and so it load RTR, and so I just want. All right, so now let's see what this Ansible config looks like. Okay, and this is it. This is actually a full Ansible configuration with all the different options. All right, so this is where you start to create that configuration file. All right, and so, all right, so let's go ahead and remove that directory. All right, let's get back to where we were. All right, so that's how I started. All right, and pretty much I then customized the config to the minimal amount of configurations that we need to do a basic demonstration. So, and I'll explain some of these. So you have, again, inventory, log path, remote user roles. Deprecation warnings, you can always set that to false. Privilege escalation. All right, so whenever you run an Ansible play on a particular node, you can actually escalate to another user. So become equals true means pretty much you're allowing privilege escalation. This is going to be the method sudo, and then become user root. All right, and so you're going to need to do that. I mean, that just makes sense to do when you're configuring or provisioning a server. All right, so these are the basic configurations that you're going to need. All right, and also let's see here, you have the inventory file, and I just used Vim. I just used Vim in order to view the file. Actually, NeoVim, you may want to get familiar with that. NeoVim, if you're going to be using the command line and working with YAML files, you want to use NeoVim actually. All right, so you'll see why in just a second. All right, so this is the inventory file. Okay, all right, and so I have the host names for each cluster here. All right, test node master 1, 2, and this is what I meant by you can actually group the nodes. All right, so you can group them under group names. So control nodes are going to be my test node master, and my worker nodes are going to be the other 3 nodes, right? And then the entire cluster is going to be both. All right, and so you could just put both group names right under cluster. All right, and so this is going to be the configuration for that. All right. Okay, and all right, and so like I said, I have some previous some previous inventory files, so I just back those up. Those are not important for this particular demonstration. All right, but the actual host names again. So let's cat this again. So you see the host names there. All right, and so those host names are going to be mapped to the host inventory that you have on your local machine. All right, or your command and control center. All right, so what does that look like for me? So you have, I mean, my host file is kind of busy, but this is what you ultimately want to focus on here. All right, these lines here. All right, so these are IP addresses, and I have that mapped to actual host names. All right. All right, and so clear it out. Look at this again. All right, and also getting back to just one more important thing to note about the configuration file. It can be in several places. All right, so this is this takes precedence. This particular path. All right, this is going to be your main path. This is my main path here. All right, and the Ansible configuration file is going to take precedence there. But just in case it's not there, where else would Ansible look for the configuration file? All right, and so there's other places. All right, and so let's change over to root user. If it's not there, all right, then it'll look here. This is the Ansible CFG here. This is default. It'll look here. All right. Okay, and then if it's not there or if it's not within your playbook, all right, then it'll look for an Ansible configuration, kind of like in a dot file. All right, so if you do touch dot, actually let's get out of here. Get back to the regular user. All right, so it'll look for it in your home directory here. All right, so touch dot Ansible.cfg. All right, so it'll look there. All right, then if you can't find in either path, then you just throw an error and then your play won't run. Now, so as mentioned before, Ansible uses SSH. All right, so we actually have to set up SSH. Now, I did get a little lazy in the sense that you can actually use Ansible to actually set up SSH to communicate with the other nodes. All right, and so I didn't do that actually. Well, not just lazy, but I kind of didn't want to do that purposefully. So I can actually show you guys that step. All right, and so we need to be able to communicate with the nodes, or the Ansible control node needs to be able to communicate with the different nodes that it needs to provision via SSH without having to always enter the password. So what does that mean? Okay, well, that means you may want to copy your public key over to each node. Well, how are you going to do that? Okay, all right, so SSH copy ID. All right, so I have a couple of users on each node. I have my personal user, and I have and then we're gonna have to create the Ansible manager user. So we'll do that in just a second. So first is gonna be my personal user. Let's try test node master first. All right, and this is stalling. Okay. Let's see here. What was the name of it again? I probably got the name wrong. Host. No, it was right. Okay. Actually. Oh, I don't have. Okay, so I don't have the IP addresses just yet. I thought I did, but I don't. All right, so we're gonna do that real quick. All right, we need to get those IP addresses. Thought I had them. All right. Let's see. Ah, I'm already logged in. All right, great. All right. Okay, so we actually need to enter those in. Okay, now as you see, my file is pretty busy. Let's see here. What was that address? It's going to be, let's see here, 6887. Okay. All right. So what are these IP addresses? So that was 48. All right. Okay. All right, it's going to be 12. All right, and the last one. 14. Okay. All right, now try this again. Oh, doing it wrong. Okay, 8. Okay, 8. Master. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we copied it there. And then there's no 1. No 2. No 3. Like I said, this can be automated. There's an Ansible way to do this, but we're gonna just go ahead and manually do this process so we can actually, sometimes it's great. I mean, well, generally it's great to know the manual process. I mean, you can't automate something that you don't know how to do manually. So, or better put, if you know how to do it manually, you'll be in better position to automate it. That's my model. All right, and so now we are. So now we have to go in and we have to set up the Ansible Manager user because we don't. I mean, I would rather set up a separate user instead of allowing Ansible to use my own personal user. So again, that separate user is going to be Ansible Manager, like we saw in the Ansible configuration file. All right, so let's go ahead and set that up. And actually, there's a couple other things that we need to do as well. All right, so I want my user as well, my personal user as well as the Ansible user to have sudo privileges, passwordless sudo privileges. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and set that up. In this doers file. Okay, and then I haven't created the Ansible Manager user yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and do this right now in anticipation of creating the Ansible Manager user. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and create the Ansible Manager user. All right, password, give it a password. Just hit enter all the way through, it'll create it. All right, so now I have my Ansible Manager user. The Ansible Manager user has sudo privileges. Let's get out of here. Okay. All right, now I need to do the same thing on each node. This can be tedious, yes. So it is probably better to automate this step as well. Doers D again, Ansible Manager. All right, so now create Ansible Manager. I'm typing fast. Hopefully, I don't misspell anything. Through it is there. All right, let's do the same thing. Node 2. Okay. Okay, and now this is the last node. All right. Alright, so now what we need to do is copy the public key over to our new Ansible manager on each node. Alright, so we're going to start with the master. So the same thing we did with our personal user. 1. Alright. 2 and 3. Okay, now all right, and so okay, all right, so now we're back here. All right, so now we are back in our folder. All right, so Ansible user here. All right, it's going to be the Ansible manager. All right, that's going to be our remote user that we're going to use from the command and control center to SSH into each node. All right, and I believe the inventory file needs to be updated as well. Yes, it does. All right. Take this, yank that. Again, yank, paste. Okay, and then yank, paste this. Let's type this out. They have it. All right, so that's been updated. Now, at this point, our control node should be able to communicate with, all of our machines. All right, and so there's a way that you can actually test that. And Ansible. Again, it's all about Ansible. Is all about modules and modules which does different things on nodes. There's a couple of ways you can access those modules. You can access them imperatively on the command line and declaratively in an actual YAML file. We'll see that in just a moment. We're not really going to get into the command line way of accessing the different modules. We'll just run a command here and there. But as you see, this is one way. Ansible all -m ping, and if you see this here, success, then that means you ping and then it replied pong. All right, and so that means it can actually reach each node via the Ansible manager, and there should not be any access issues. Okay, now so now that that's in place, let's go ahead and dive into some of the key configurations of the folders and files. All right, so we've already taken a look at Ansible CFG, which is the main Ansible configuration file. You basically telling Ansible, you're giving it instructions on how it needs to run, and in terms of key configurations, if you want logs, inventory, users, privilege escalation, things like that, right? We took a look at the inventory file, so now let's take a look at playbooks. All right, so playbooks, again, this is just a general structure. Your playbooks are going to be your core. All right, and so each playbook has a bunch of different plays. All right, so we are going to take a look at the very first one that we're going to run. All right, and in fact, I said NeoVim. Keep using Vim. All right, and so NeoVim, again, I recommend this if you're using the CLI. If your choice is to use the CLI, and you want to work with YAML files, you definitely want to use a service that can make YAML files make them a little bit more readable. They can format them in a certain way that makes it more readable. All right, and so as you see, this particular playbook, individual playbook to provision servers is pretty, just a few lines. All right, and so what does that mean? All right, so this is going to be your host. All right, and so the host value is going to point to what's in your inventory file. All right, and so the host has a cluster, has a value of cluster. All right, and again, this cluster is going to be if you remember here. All right, cluster. That's a group name. So in this case, the cluster is going to represent all of your nodes because all of your nodes are represented in two groups: control nodes and worker nodes. That's here and here. All right. Okay. And so that's that. And become yes. The value of yes ultimately means that you're giving the playbook the privilege of running privilege escalation commands. All right. And so roles. I'm sorry, I did it again. Let's do NeoVim. Still getting used to it, guys. All right. And so roles. All right. Now remember what I mentioned about roles. Roles are reusable modules, basically, or reusable playbooks. All right, and so I have a couple of roles here. All right, so system upgrade and system setup. All right, so what does that look like? All right, let's take a look at that. All right, and there's a directory called roles, and they're hosted here. All right, and so system setup. All right, so what does a role look like? All right, so a role is going to be structured in a specific way. It's going to be structured in a way in which that gives you the option to kind of publish this particular role for others to use. All right, and so you have specific files that have to be there. Well, if you want to publish it. Some of these files, depending on your use case for the role, you don't necessarily need every single directory, but this is just here for demonstration purposes. All right, so your role is going to have your defaults. Your defaults folder is going to hold, let's just say, default variables. All right, so let's take a look at the system setup. Let's take a look at this. All right, defaults. What do I have here? All right, so a couple of default variables. All right, so Kubernetes version, Cryo version. All right, Cryo is going to be the container runtime that we're going to use. All right, that's our choice. Container runtime. All right, then handlers. Let's take a look at handlers. All right, so handlers. This file is going to be for let's just say things or executions that you would like to run. Once you validate a certain execution, went successful, and you want to automatically trigger another execution. You want to put that execution that you want to trigger automatically in the handlers file. This is going to be a system reboot. So anytime you configure a system, you want to go ahead and reboot it. That's after any kind of updates or security upgrades, anything like that. That's going to be the triggered action. All right, and that's what goes here in the handlers file. I keep using Vim instead of NeoVim. All right, and so meta. We're really not going to use that file, so we can actually get rid of it. Technically speaking. Let's see here. Oh yes, that's right. So meta. All right, so meta information is in case you want to actually go ahead and publish this. All right, put it on an open source market. All right, this is what you're gonna have. Author description, company licenses, things to help describe exactly your Ansible module or Ansible play that you would like to share. All right, so that's what that's about. All right, now this file, your tasks, this is going to include your main tasks. All right, it's almost similar to just playbooks, and so these are playbooks inside of tasks, and each one is going to have plays. Templates. All right, so what are templates? Templates is going to hold any kind of let's just say templating configuration. You're going to use this a lot when you provision servers. So let's take a look at what this looks like actually. All right, so this uses the Jinja2 templating engine. All right, and so that's built into Ansible. All right, and so you want to use template for certain things. So this is network configurations. You want to use templates for things like that. That's just huge. You don't want to mess those up. Templates offer some form of configuration stability to prevent, let's just say, typos and errors. Again, it uses Python's Jinja2 templating engine, and yeah, so that's exactly what that is. All right, and so test, inventory test, we won't worry about that right now. And then vars is going to be just that's self-explanatory. That's just another place to put variables. All right, and so let's take a look at tasks. Okay, as you see, this holds a lot of tasks, and a lot of these tasks follow the steps in the previous video. All of the manual steps for the most part in the previous video to install a Kubernetes cluster on a platform. All right, and so in your tasks you can actually include other tasks. All right, and so that's going to be important because if your task files get too long, you want to spread them out and then just include tasks. Now, this is actually kind of like an important topic. You can actually include or import. All right, and so the thing is, the difference between both is that includes are going to be more dynamic. All right, so as Ansible processes it, when you run your playbook, if your playbook includes roles and the tasks begin to execute, if there's any errors, that's when it's going to throw the errors dynamically. Whether if you use, let's just say, import task instead of include task, well, then that's more of a static analysis. It's going to go ahead and verify that everything is meets validation requirements. It's going to do that before it runs. So that's the big difference between include and import. All right, so here I'm going to include a task, open vSwitch YAML. If you want to know exactly what that does, I mean, I can describe it. If you want to see specifically what it does, you can look at the previous video on Kubernetes. This is an Ubuntu 22.04 thing. All right, and so basically, Open vSwitch is just a kind of like a virtual host system that Ubuntu 22.04 uses to configure virtual networks on this platform. All right, and so these are some specifics. Disable DHCP, which of course you would definitely want to do that, right? You want to do that. All right, disable that so you can actually give it a specific IP address. You don't want that changing, right? So then rename the current network interface. So basically, these are all plays that are specific to networks. All right, and so Ansible modules. All right, and so that's another big topic. Like I said, there's a module, for practically everything. There's a module for most configurations that you need to do. All right, so there's a shell module, just in case you want to run a shell script. Let's move up. There's a template module. All right, and this template module is going to use the template, the network configuration template that I showed you that's outlined within using the Jinja2 framework. All right, so what's going to happen here is that, for example, is going to take that template, that network configuration, and copy it directly over to where it needs to go on the actual host machines. All right, so this is going to be Etsy net plan. All right, that's what that does. Okay, sorry, right down. All right, and so that's what these are for the most part. Network configurations, and then there's a test ping. So after I basically configure the network, I want to ping to make sure that the network is still reachable, because if it fails, then of course you want to fail the entire playbook because it can't reach the network, and then that's that. All right, and so sorry, a second. All right, kind of lost my space there. All right, so that's what that does. All right. So then after that, I include another task file, OS config tasks. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. All right, and so then after those network configurations, I install system packages. And again, I can go into great detail. Much of this was again covered in the previous video for Kubernetes, for Kubernetes installation in a lab environment. All right, and so again, the main takeaway from this is that Ansible has lots of built-in modules. All right, and so where can you find these modules? All right, so this is where you find them. Like, this is the entire modules list. All right, so they have modules for system D. So if you want to run system D commands, all right. A lot of these modules already have examples that pretty much you can copy and paste. All right, or you could just Google it, use AI, and then it'll bring up the module. Of course, with artificial intelligence, I don't think I need to tell this audience, as I assume this audience has, I would say, enough experience to know that you don't want to just copy and paste whatever AI gives you. You want to test it and understand what it's doing before you run it, before you break your system. All right, and so this is where again you can find a number of different modules. It has modules for practically everything. POSIX, utilities, has Windows specific modules. This is an excellent service. All right, and so that's what I'm doing here. I'm just using different modules, all right, to go ahead and perform the Kubernetes installation steps in order to configure a cluster. All right, and so here's another example here. Install a list of system packages. All right, and this is using the Debian app package manager, APT package manager. All right, and so that's what this is doing here. Okay, let's see here. All right, these are CNI configurations, so container network interface configurations. All right, for the cryo service. All right, and then after that happens, after that's configured, ready to go, restart the cryo service. And same thing with the kubelet service. So that's what that does. All right. All right, so that's what it does in system setup. Let's take a look at system upgrade. Okay. Let's take a look at the tasks. Again, task main. All right. Pretty simple here. All right. This is copied. I believe this is copied directly from the documentation. Documentation is, very, very informative. Again, you just copy that, and then it'll probably have exactly what you need without you having to make many modifications to the example. All right. I want to highlight this particular part here as well. This is a strategy here. Upgrade the operating system. All right, and so upgrade output. Then I have this condition here changed when no upgrades found. In upgrade std out. So this basically says that okay, if this play is run again, then does only only register a change when there's actually been a change. And there's a number of different ways in which you can do that. And so you'd have to somewhat know or sample with running updates and examining the output on updates on operating systems. And there are certain things you could point to in that output that'll help you write a play to be able to identify when a change has been made. And so that's essentially what this does. Don't do a system restart if there hasn't been any upgrades. If you just did an upgrade 5 minutes ago, don't do a system restart. Okay? All right, and so that's that. And then let's see here if there's any other key things that I like to show before I go ahead and run these playbooks, so you can actually see, how beautiful this is in terms of being able to automate this process. This is another important key feature of Kubernetes. Of Ansible, is the block statements. All right, and so Ansible allows you to group statements into blocks. All right, and so you can group related tasks into blocks, and then you can run those tasks on a conditional basis with things like a when statement. All right. That's another key feature as well. All right, and yeah, so this is actually performs Kubernetes cluster. So this is running the kubeadm tasks. And so again, previous video has each one of these particular steps. This is actually kind of tricky in the sense that you have to really examine outputs, as I just mentioned before with the system upgrade example. Being familiar with the outputs, uh, so you can being familiar with the outputs would really helps in writing additional plays, as well as um, validating that a particular play ran successfully. Okay, and so ultimately, what this does is it examines a number of different output for the kubeadm process, which is essentially the underlying process um, that the control node uses in order to join other clusters to it. And so that's what this does. It runs that kubeadm process. Okay, all right, and so all right. So at this point, I think we can go ahead and run these playbooks. All right. So I'm going to start with actually go back. All right. So we're going to start with provision servers first. All right. So provision servers basically performs the updates as we saw. Basic configuration of servers to prepare them to have Kubernetes installed on these servers. So let's go ahead and run those. And this is the main command that you would use to run playbooks. Is Ansible Playbook, and then provision servers, and then run it. And this is going to take a while. So again, it's from scratch almost, provisioning the server and then install the Kubernetes on it. So we'll sit tight and see how this runs, see if it runs successfully. Okay. All right. So looks like this part ran successful. Provisioning servers, installing, updating them, um, configuring the networks, and the NICs on the system, as well as installing the base packages that are needed to complete the Kubernetes installation. All right, and so let's see here. All right, so then the next step is going to be run the kubeadm tasks on that particular playbook. All right, and so let's look at that one more time. All right, so this is what that looks like. So first, check see if kubeadm is initialized. All right. If it's initialized, then we don't, it's installed, and we don't need to do that again. And let's see here. If it's not, then it performs the process of initializing kubeadm. All right, and then joins the different worker nodes once the kubeadm initialization process has completed. All right, and that's essentially what this does. All right, so let's go ahead and run it. Okay, all right, so it looks like that process ran successfully. All right, and so we just have basically just one more step. All right, and so let's look at that, and that's set up the home directory and weave CNI network. All right, so let's take a look. All right, so once you initialize kubeadm, it provides you with some instructions on how to set up the home directory structure for your user that will be running Kubernetes commands, kubectl commands. So it provides you with those sets of instructions. And then the last thing is to install the weave CNI network. All right. Which are gonna be used, of course, to configure networking across the cluster nodes. Overlay networks, essentially, is what it does. All right, and so let's go ahead and run that. All right, so that apparently ran successfully. Okay. All right, now you can go ahead and let's shell into Ansible master node. Okay, I have these split up to shell into each individual node, but we'll just stick with the first block here. All right, so now this is our first time actually shelling into this node after it has been provisioned and set up to be able to run Kubernetes commands and set up in a distributed environment type of way. So we can actually let's see here. What is it? Is it V? Let's see here. Kubernetes. Oh, where is I can get the version? Well, obviously it's installed. We're able to run kubectl help, so it's there. Let's see here. So that's there. Oh, kubectl just version. No, yeah. All right. So that's there. All right, and so yeah, that's there. It's all there. Okay. Let's see where we at. All right. And there you have it. kubectl get node. Let's clear this out and run that again. And there it is. These nodes, worker nodes, have been successfully joined to the cluster. And the networks, underlying networks, as well as the control node, it's able to reach the worker nodes. All right, so everything is in a status of ready. Let's go and run a couple other commands. Let's do get all. Okay, and there it is. Everything has been successfully installed. Hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. Purpose of it again was to show just how powerful the Ansible automation tool can be in deploying applications on servers. And so in doing so, we went over some key concepts and ideas with the Ansible automation tool. And so in the description, I'm going to link to my repository where you can actually download the playbook. Again, this playbook was specifically written for the Ubuntu 22.04 cluster. It may work on a more recent version of Ubuntu. So I would say be cautious about that. But if you really want to experiment and run it successfully, I would just encourage you to just go ahead and download the 22.04 LTS Ubuntu server version, and then experiment with the Ansible Playbook. And so, if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, share, and definitely leave some comments. If you see some things that could have been done better, I'm always receptive to criticism and ideas on how to improve. So definitely let me know, and see you guys on the next video. Have a good one.